Let's begin with this SBL revision. We'll begin with the strategy related topics, then governance, and then risk controls, slowly to the e-marketing technology, and finishing it off with the project management. First topic, concepts of strategy. So basically this strategy means, it's a long-term plan. Long-term plan a company have to achieve its objectives. So sometimes what happens is the plan that you have decided that you would follow for the next 3 or 5 years, it might not be followed as it is. Certain changes could be there from the external environment. Due to those changes that are happening in the external environment, the strategy might be changed. How the strategy would be affected is maybe the operations of the company might change, or maybe the scope might change, or the kind of resources that you're using might change. For example, if there is a shift from petrol to electric vehicles, previously your designs were all had a limited scope in terms of only coming up with these petrol vehicles. Now you have to come up with these EV vehicles, designs for those EV vehicles. The kind of resources that you are using previously, the petrol engines, now you'll have to come up with batteries. Operations might also change, maybe to improve the efficiency. Now maybe you're using robots in the production process. Okay, so a strategy is a long-term plan through which organization tries to achieve its objectives. During the process of that achievement of the objectives, certain changes that can happen in the external environment, those changes might affect the strategy in these three different areas. All right. What is the point of having these strategies in place? What are the advantages of having the strategy? Well, if you have a strategy in place, it enables the organization to look ahead, right? It enables the organization to look ahead. That is one of the biggest benefit. It also sets the direction for the company. Plus, if you have a strategy in place, rest of the whole organization, I mean the entire organization, all the functions in the organization will have a certain goal to achieve. That goal congruence will be there. Okay, everybody would be working towards wealth maximization of the shareholders, or everybody would be working towards the ethical goals that the company have, or everybody would be working towards meeting the targets that were mentioned, right? So you have a strategy. That strategy would be explained, or that strategy would be given as targets to the rest of the functions, so that all the functions would be achieving the same goal. Uh, Along with the advantages, some disadvantages will also be there during especially the preparation of the strategies. So these strategies are very time consuming to prepare. A lot of things would be going on here. You need to bring in consultants. They need to understand the business. They need to look into what sort of external factors are there that will affect the organization. What are the capabilities of the organization? A lot of thinking would be going on. So it's a time consuming process. So these external consultants, they're not going to work for free. You need to pay them salary. So it can be expensive. Plus, no matter how good of a strategy you come up with, since the market is dynamic, which means it is constantly changing, constantly evolving, your strategy might not be relevant to the external environment changes after maybe 3 years or 4 years, which means you need to continuously upgrade your strategy. You need to keep on changing the strategy. A lot of time you need to invest in, a lot of resources needs to be invested in. So, uh, how to come up with a strategy? Now we understood what a strategy is, advantages and disadvantages. You need to know how to come up with a strategy, which means how to do strategic planning, right? How to come up with a strategy. Well, there is this JSW model, which says that anybody who wants to, who are into planning how to determine a strategy, they need to think about three different aspects or think from perspective of three different aspects. Strategic analysis, they need to consider strategic choices that they have, and then finally strategy implementation. Strategic analysis means here the company would be thinking where they stand, right? They'll be thinking about the external environment, right? What are the changes that are happening in the external environment? How those external changes will affect them? That is the first thing they'll be looking into. So to tackle that, do they have internal capabilities to tackle that? And what sort of expectations the stakeholders have towards the company? What's happening with the stakeholders' expectations? Are these stakeholders' expectations, changing? Based on that, the strategic analysis would be done. So in this strategic analysis process itself, we'll be looking into different models later on. The PESTEL model, Porter's five forces, and then Porter's diamond, right? So like this, different models will be looking into. And then value chain analysis also is there, SWOT analysis. All right. After you consider where you stand, after you understood the external environment, now you would be thinking what sort of choices a company have to achieve their strategy, right? So choices in the sense, how you want to achieve that strategy through organic growth, which means you're not relying on any other company. On your own, you want to grow, organic growth. Or maybe through a joint venture, that can also happen. Or maybe through acquisitions, right? If acquisition is the case, synergies will be there. Or maybe franchising, right? So these are the different choices that are available to a company. When considering these different choices, company should also think about which of these options is strategically fit to the company, which is more suitable or which is more feasible to the company. And then finally comes the strategic implementation. When you're implementing the strategy, right, you have decided either to go organic growth or joint venture. So you're planning to implement the strategy. You need to consider, first of all, do you have enough resources to implement the strategy? Resources could mean money, resources could mean people, right? Resources could mean, the technical knowledge. We need to consider those things. At the same time, how the company should be organized, right? What sort of structure you want to follow? Functional structure, divisional structure, like that. And then finally, when you are implementing a strategy, there could be certain opposition or there could be certain resistance from the employees. Especially if at all there is a change happening, employees got used to work in a certain way. If all of a sudden you as a top level management comes and says that we need to implement something else, there could be certain resistance. So you need to know how to manage that resistance as well. All these things should be considered in the implementation process. So this is what the JSW model is. JSW model, one of the first models that we are going to revise. Later on, once you understood how to come up with this strategic planning, then we need to know there are different levels of strategic planning. Three different levels are there in this strategic planning. Uh, First one, the corporate strategy. Second one, business strategy. And then the last one, functional strategy. So corporate strategy means here decisions related to diversification, decisions related to scope of the business, um, like that, scope of the business, or if the company wants to uh, expand into some other markets, those kind of decisions would be taken at corporate level. Business strategy, here what happens is, uh, here the company would be thinking on where to focus to achieve that corporate strategy. Whatever you have decided at corporate strategy, at the corporate level, at the top level, where to focus so that you would achieve that strategy. For example, in corporate strategy, something like, for example, in Amazon example, they are going for diversification. Previously they were selling only books on Amazon. Then other items they have added. Now you can find everything on Amazon. Now they are into cloud computing as well, right? Uh, so like this, so many things are happening. They are diversifying the business. So in case of business strategy, we need to decide what to focus on so that it will be properly achieved, the corporate strategy. So in business strategy, what you'll have to think is, uh, how would Amazon achieve that? Maybe they should focus on certain, I don't know, cost leader strategy, right? Coming up with the prices, you find many discounts online, Amazon on. If you go to a retail store, you won't find that sort of discounts, but you find such discounts on Amazon. So their business strategy is being a cost leader, right? To uh, make sure to, to give the products at such rates which are low than the retailers. And then finally, the functional strategy. So this functional strategy will try to implement in a way so that we can achieve this cost leader strategy that we have decided at the business strategy level. Right? So how does that happen? Properly maintaining the, or properly taking care of inventory levels. Maybe use robots, right? Maybe use robots to take care of the inventory, inventory movement. If you have people in place, people can't work 24/7, but you have robots in place, they can work 24/7. So that is the one of the primary reasons. Now, if we see any warehouse of Amazon, most of the jobs are being replaced by these robots, human jobs, because these robots can be working 24/7. And if that is the case, Amazon can accept orders at any time of the day. Processing and all will be done and delivered within time. So those kind of targets that they're coming up with, very limited time they have. No matter where you are throughout the throughout the nation, wherever you are, wherever you order something, if you are in that Prime membership, within 2 days you can get the product. How it is happening, through use of these machines and all. Okay, three different levels of planning: corporate strategy, business strategy, and functional strategy. And then sometimes what happens is, whatever strategy that you have decided, you might not achieve that strategy. There could be certain deviation from the strategy. That is called as strategic drift. Okay, so there are different levels in this strategic drift. Strategic drift basically means it's a situation where the planned strategy is not realized or achieved. It's a plan that was not achieved. So why does this happen? Well, the reason is again the external changes. Certain other better products are available online, or maybe certain new technology is available in the market. People are no longer showing interest towards your product, right? So we are going to understand this through a certain graph. So the time that is there with the company and the amount of change that is happening in the external environment. So we'll consider Nokia and Apple example, right? Nokia was one of the top selling brands for mobile phones during the late 1900s and early 2000s. 1990s and early 2000s, Nokia's products were being sold quite high. It is the market leader. But what happened was slowly Nokia drifted apart. So how did it happen? So during the first phase, uh, you know, if I break this down something like this, so Nokia would be taking certain decisions to improve their products, right? As time passes, they're taking certain decisions to improve the products, which means it is called as incremental, MENTL, incremental change. Incremental change means Nokia is taking small decision, I mean, small steps to improve their products, maybe the battery life, maybe the camera quality, or maybe the sturdiness of the product. They're taking certain decisions. The change is happening, but at the same time, what's happening is Apple had come up with. Apple also, started to do the research on the touch phone, right? So from the beginning itself, you should be able to notice this gap. Okay. Then what happened? Once Apple had launched its phone, it has taken the market, right? It has significantly taken the market. People started to like the touch phones. At that time, Nokia did not realize that their products are not going to be sold as much as they were sold back then. So Nokia did not realize that, but still they were, using the same sort of techniques that they were previously using, right? The same products that they are selling. Again, they did not give enough importance to the change that had happened in the external environment. They're still thinking that customers might be loyal towards them. The customers still like the keypad phones, but that is not the case. A lot of changes are happening in the external environment, especially when Apple had come up with the touch phone. Change was happening much more quickly. So this is where that strategic drift started. Okay, Nokia is taking away the market, but sorry, Apple is taking away the market, but Nokia is still uh, making those small changes, and ultimately it had drifted apart. And there comes a situation where Nokia would be realizing at this stage that something is really going on wrong. Then they'll be taking certain decisions, but those decisions won't work out. And then again they'll take certain decision. Again, the decision won't work out. Again, they'll take some decision. Maybe these decisions in terms of increasing the marketing, right? Or maybe sponsorships, something like the certain decisions they're taking, but there is no use of this. They are spiraling around in the same place. But by the time Apple had already came up with a significant change in their products with the touch phone, with the integration of the touch phone, calls and everything, a lot of changes happened. So this is the situation This is the phase of strategic flux. It's a confused state. Nokia is taking certain decisions, but no result they're getting in. They're spiraling around in the same place. But meanwhile, what change? The kind of change Apple had brought in is too much, right? Uh, the kind of change Apple had brought in is too much that Nokia did not have Nokia did not have enough time even to respond later on. So in this situation, if at all Nokia doesn't take proper decision, right, to revive the company's position, the company's death will happen, right? Company's death will happen, the fall, or if they take certain decision which revives the company's position, the company will live on. Okay, here a death, or they need to take certain decision. No? That kind of change that we expect in such situation is transformational change. Transformational change means fundamentally things are going to be changed. Their basic assumptions, like they're believing that customer loyalty will be there even if they do not come up with the touch phone, that kind of beliefs should be changed. They need to cater according to the expectations of the customers. So this is strategic drift concept. Then comes the next chapter. Then comes the next chapter, strategic analysis. So in the JSW model, we have seen that to come up with a strategy, three things we need to be careful of, three things we need to consider. First one is that strategic analysis. Second one is that strategic choices. And finally, implementation. So this first one, strategic analysis, we are going to look in this topic. So first model that we are going to look into is there are certain changes that are happening in the external environment, how companies should react to them. Right? How companies should, before reacting to them, how companies should be aware of those external changes. So first one, external environmental analysis. Okay, we use model called as PESTEL model, right? We'll go through each one of the word over there. P means political factors, right? Political factors that are there in the external environment. Our focus here is to understand how this political factor affect the organization. Okay, so usually usually what happens here is analysis skill would be tested, professional skill of analysis. So if analysis is being tested, you have to talk about reasons why something is happening, and then if it had happened, what is going to be the impact on the organization. So if at all political changes are there or political decisions that the government is taking, how they might affect the organization. Let's suppose tax rates are increasing. If tax rates are increasing, your profits will come down, right? Your costs are increasing. So that is the impact. Or maybe if the political parties are not stable, one political party is saying that they'll give incentives, but some other party is saying that, if we come into power, we'll take away those incentives. If the political party is not stable, company doesn't have enough clarity, right? If that other government comes into picture, they may take away the incentives. Because of this, costs to the company will increase. That is one of the impact. And then next E is this economical factor. Economical factor in the sense, the economical conditions of an country. For example, let's suppose there is a recession going on in that country. Due to recession, the employment will be down. People will not be having employment opportunities. Because of that, income levels will be low. In that situation, if you are a company who I mean, if you're a company which is into producing luxury products, for your luxury products, demand will be down. During decision time, nobody is going to be purchasing the luxury products, right? Or maybe if there is inflation. If there is too much inflation, what happens to the prices? Prices will go up. If prices are going up, demand will come down. That is the impact. So, and then social factors. Social factors means the nature of people, right? What sort of people are there in this country? What sort of preferences do they have? Preferences, their tastes, right? Based on that, demand will go up or down. So if the preferences are changing, if the tastes are changing, company should also upgrade, update or upgrade according to the changes that are happening in the customer's preferences. If you do not upgrade or if you do not comply with those changes, again, customers won't buy your products. The demand will go down. Again, to upgrade or to comply with those preferences, again, you need to invest. Again, that also doesn't happen for free. For this, in the short term, costs will go up. Then comes technological factors, which means how easy is it to transfer technology in this country? I mean, what sort of technology is available in this country? For example, sometimes if government invest in technological development, so latest technology will be available in the country. Because of this latest technology, maybe your production efficiency might be improved, right? So you can consider that as a benefit. Uh, Taking in those sort of machines would improve the efficiency, so you can produce more and you can sell more. At the same time, companies should also constantly upgrade themselves with the changes that are happening in the technology. And customers are preferring 5G network. Customers are preferring 5G network, or people are preferring 5G network. The mobile network operators should upgrade their technologies in such a way that they're capable to deliver the 5G network, right? So if you upgrade from your old technology to new, again, this also doesn't happen for free. In the short term, costs will go up. And then environmental factors means the natural resources. If at all if at all the product that you're producing is causing any harm to the natural resources, what happens? Government might levy fines on you, or maybe customers will boycott your products. Customers will stop buying your products. So we need to comply with those environmental aspects as well. And then finally, the legal factors. Legal factors means the law that exists in that nation, in that country. For example, it can be employment laws. Employment laws, in the sense, employment law says that you need to pay certain level of pay, or the salary to the laborers or maybe the workers. You need to comply with that. If you do not pay at the same level that the government is suggesting you, if you're showing any discrimination over there, government will step in. It will increase the legal cost to the company. That is the impact here. Legal fines can be there, or maybe government might take away your license. Because of this, reputation will also be gone. Because of these cases and all, reputation will also be gone. That is the impact. So while understanding this PESTEL model, you should not only understand what that PESTEL means, you should also think from the professional skill perspective. The professional skill that we used here is this analysis, the impacts, how this affect the organization. A certain thing is happening in the external environment, how it will affect the organization. Second model is Porter's five forces. Uh, the external environmental analysis we have seen, which means the country as a whole, we did the analysis. Now, specifically in an industry, right? Industry analysis, we can call it, or industry attractiveness, which means how easy is it to make above average profits in this specific industry. So before, as a company, you are thinking which industry to enter into. So different industries are there. Wherever it is easy to make that above average profits, you will enter into that industry. So there are certain factors which the organization needs to look into before it comes to a conclusion saying that which industry is attractive. Okay, so Porter's five forces. There are five different forces. Um, Five different forces. Let me write them down. Power of buyers, power of suppliers, threat of new entrants, threat of substitutes, and then core competitive rivalry. So if the power of buyer is high, right, while we are learning this Porter's five forces, for each force we are going to see whether their power is high or low. Based on this, it will affect the profit making ability of that industry. So if at all the power of buyer is high, they will ask for discounts. If you give discounts, you will lose on the profit margins. So this will happen if there are few buyers for your product. Okay, few buyers in the sense, let's suppose a single buyer is giving you significant demand, right? You can't lose that buyer, you can't lose that customer. So that customer will ask for discounts, you'll have to give the discounts. So the profits will come down in that situation. What about the suppliers? If at all, few suppliers are there in the market, now they will dictate the prices. Dictates the prices. If they're dictating the prices, the cost of input will go up, right? If the prices are going up, your profits will come down, which means it affects the profit making ability in that industry. When the power of suppliers would be high, if the raw material is rare, RARE, if the raw material is rare, not many suppliers are there, there's no option for you but to buy from those suppliers. Threat of new entrants. Threat of new entrants means you are in this industry. How easy is it to enter into that industry? Are there any barriers in this industry? Barrier to entry. Barrier to entry in the sense how much capital is required, how much capital, and then what sort of knowledge is required. See, it would be much more difficult to enter into medicine industry than to enter into a restaurant a chain or a food industry, right? Because the capital requirement in an industry where establishing restaurant, small scale restaurant is not that high. The knowledge also is not that high. The kind of knowledge you require to establish a medicine company is very high. So these are the barriers to entry. If the barriers to entry are high, if the barrier to entry are high, which means capital requirement is high, knowledge required is high, the new entrants entering into that industry would be low. If the barrier to entry is low, then everybody can enter into that industry. So threat of new entrants will be high. If more entrants are there, if more competitors are there, right? If easily everybody is entering into the industry, what happens? Again, the power of suppliers would increase because the demand for these products are increasing. So again, they'll keep on dictating the prices. So if many substitutes are also available for your product, If at all you're increasing the price of your product to get more profits, what customers will do? They'll simply switch to the substitutes, right? If they're simply switching to the substitutes, you will lose the demand. If the demand is so if the customers are switching to other substitute products, the demand for your product will come down. So you won't have enough revenue. So profits will also come down. And finally, if there is too much competition, which means more number of competitors are there in the market. If more competitors are there, price wars will happen, right? Due to this price wars, one competitor will try to reduce the price to attract the customers. Looking at that competitor, others will also try to reduce the prices. Why? Because if they're not reducing the prices, they will lose the demand, right? So because of this reduction in prices, profits will come down, right? So these are the 5 different factors which will affect the industry attractiveness. Porter's 5 forces, and then next model is Porter's diamond. 3, same. This model you'll be using specifically when you want to understand why a specific country is best known for something. Why a specific country is best known for something. For example, if we talk about Japan, they are best known for, the electronics, right? The compact consumer electronics. If we talk about Germany, they are best known for, these luxury or performance cars. Now, the BMW, Mercedes, they come from Germany. So what is so special about this nation, right? What is so special about this country that that Japan is best known for that electronics, or maybe Germany is best known for the performance-based cars? What is so unique over there? So through Porter's diamond, you're going to understand the national advantage. So number one is factor conditions. Factor conditions in the sense the availability of land, availability of labor, right, availability of capital over there. So these kind of things comes into picture. In case of Germany, what sort of benefits that they have over there is they have skilled labor, right? They have skilled labor. The people are interested in working in this manufacturing industry. Okay, people are willing to people are willing to work in these production processes. So they have skilled engineering workforce. Plus, at the same time, they invest this capital in R&D also, research and development facilities, right? You have BMW research and development facilities in Munich, where they, develop the next technology. So these kind of things are happening over there. Uh, then, then comes the demand conditions. Demand conditions means what sort of uh, expectations does customers in Germany have? All the customers in Germany, they are quality conscious. Yes, all the customers in Germany are quality conscious. They are, expecting safety from the cars. So since customers are expecting this, the manufacturers like BMW, Audi, they're coming up with this quality or safe cars, right? Since the demand is there for that quality and safety, man companies are working towards that. And then third one would be related and supporting industry. Related and supporting industry, which means so BMW is not going to manufacture each and every component of that car. That's not going to happen. So what they have, what happens over this, there is that they rely on supporting industries. For example, in the production process, you require these robot arms to do that welding, that precision welding. Uh, the computers that direct those robot arms to do that precision welding, those computers are manufactured by this Siemens company, right? We call them as PLCs, programmed logical controllers. These PLCs are manufactured by Siemens. Siemens exists in Germany, right? So that availability is there. For example, for this performance cars, for these fast cars, you require tires which can stop the car uh, as quickly as it accelerates, right? So one of the tire manufacturer, Continental, right? Tire manufacturer. This is also from Germany, right? You have quality or you have performance based cars in place. How it is happening? Not every product BMW or Audi is producing. They are depending on other industries or related industries or supporting industries, which also have the same quality target, which also have that same quality focus. And then firm strategy, structure, and rivalry. So firm strategy means all of them, most of them, follows the differentiation strategy. Differentiation strategy means they try to come up with something, unique features in their cars. Everybody focuses on the same thing, same differentiation strategy. See, if everybody is focusing on coming up with something unique, it pushes the competitors in the industry or competitors in that nation to innovate, right? So as all companies are trying towards that innovation, overall the innovation levels are increasing. Overall, the Germany got that name or title for offering best quality cars. Firm structure, mostly family based structure we can find in German car manufacturing companies. Family based structures they'll be having. It depends if it's a family-based company or I mean the private company or a listed company. Based on the structure also, you can see the influence it has on the manufacturing. And then the kind of rivalry. I mean, you have so many car manufacturers. You have Audi, you have BMW, right? You have Mercedes, and then Volkswagen. So many competitors are there. So because of this competition, it is pushing all the companies to work towards that innovative product, come up with new features. So existence of all these aspects in Germany is pushing the entire nation towards the title of coming up with the performance based cars. Apart from this, two more other factors are there. We call that as chance factors, which means after the war, after World War II, Germany was focusing on industrial rebuilding. Okay. So that is one factor. It had happened as a chance. It's a chance factor. And then, I mean, after World War II. And then government factor is also there. Government says that companies which do not comply with these CO2 emissions, cars which do not comply with these CO2 emissions, they are restricted from entering into certain spaces or certain roads. Okay, they call it as umwelt zones. Something called as something like umwelt zones, which means if a car doesn't meet certain emission standards, they cannot enter into these zones. So it is indirectly pushing the companies to come up with engines, right? Engines which are complying with the emission standards. So all of these things, overall pushing the nation to best known for the quality cars or maybe the performance cars. Sometimes government might give subsidies as well to buy the electric vehicles, right? Again, if government is giving subsidies, more customers will purchase them. If there is a demand, if there is more demand, if there is more purchase, companies will try to improve the product. This is Porter's diamond. And then next model is, this is third model, and then fourth model. So we understood how a company, a country would get that advantage, national advantage. What about a company? How would a individual company get that advantage, right? Competitive advantage. We're going to learn that from Porter's value chain, right? When you're going to use this Porter's value chain to understand competitive advantage. How to gain that competitive advantage? How to gain that competitive advantage? Competitive advantage means it means as a company you're doing something unique, something different from the rest of the competition. It is giving you an edge over the competitors. It is bringing you the demand from the customers. All right, this Porter's value chain. We are looking that from the perspective of a company, and here Porter had divided all the activities that happens in a company into two categories: primary activities and then secondary activities. Primary activities, first of all, you need to get the raw material and you need to store that raw material in the warehouse, right? So this is what they call as inbound logistics. Okay, so how can you achieve a competitive advantage here? Maybe use just-in-time inventory management, right? Just-in-time systems. Only when there is a requirement for raw material, get it, right? Because of this, unnecessary waste won't happen, and the raw material won't be spoiled. In that way, you can save the costs. Saves costs. Once you have the raw material in place, then what happens? The production will happen, which means converting raw material into finished goods. We call this as operations. So what kind of competitive advantage can a company have in these operations? Automate the process, automate the production process. This will give you efficiency. If you have efficiency, you can produce more and sell more. That can be a competitive advantage. After operations, you will be thinking about marketing. Okay, before marketing, we also need to distribute, right? So after operations, outbound logistics. Outbound logistics means the distribution. How you're going to make the products available to the customers or maybe to the retailers, right? So make sure to use, let's suppose if it is a product which is something like milk product or maybe something like dairy product, maybe have the vans that you're using, make sure to have that air conditioning so that the quality of the product will be saved before it reaches the customer. So the quality would be saved. And then along with that, we also need to do the marketing. So in this marketing, usually, celebrity endorsements will be done. Celebrity endorsements means, you see this thumbs up or you see this lace, how they are being marketed. They'll pick a celebrity, a movie star. Through them, they'll do this advertisement. One of the biggest benefit of doing that is that whatever trust as people that we have, or whatever favorism that we have towards that celebrity, that favorism will be transferred onto the product. Okay, easily within seconds, companies can gain the trust of us through these celebrity endorsements. So that sort of marketing you can do to gain that competitive advantage. After the marketing is done, you also should take care of after sales services, which means if at all customers are facing any trouble with the product, you need to have customer relationship management in place, which should respond to the customer's requirements promptly, or customer's queries promptly. So that the prompt response would be the competitive advantage you'll be having. Apart from this, secondary activities are also there. Secondary activities means these are the activities which are going to support the entire organization. They are not going to work individually. For example, procurement function, which brings in the raw material to the company, or maybe if you require a van, right, for the distribution or for the inbound logistics, procurement department will take care of that. So those kind of things. And then technological development also you have to think of, because this JIT systems or these automations, all this will happen unless and until you focus on the technology. And then you require people at each and every department, or each and every process, right, that will be taken care by the human resource management. They will be selecting the right candidates, they'll be training them, they'll be taking care of the career progression as well. And then infrastructure in the sense how the company should be organized, functional departments or divisional departments, how, functional structure or divisional structure, how it should be organized. So those things should also be considered here. For example, if you have 50 different products that you're selling, right, each one is different from each other, like how Samsung does. It sells phones, washing machine, ACs, TVs, laptops, computers, so many things. In that situation, in that case, divisional structure would be much more suitable. Each product, each division. Okay, if we are a small company only selling one product, maybe functional strategy would be suitable. Functional strategy in the sense you'll be having the purchase department, you'll be having the finance department, marketing department, after sales. Like for one product only, based on the functions, the company would be divided. Here, based on the divisions. All right, so this is the Porter's value chain. When you're going to use this to understand how a company can gain that competitive advantage. Next model is SWOT analysis. Next model is SWOT analysis. This SWOT analysis, using this, two factors are related to internal aspects of the company and two factors are external. Simple model, whatever strengths that a company have, what they'll have to do is whatever opportunities that are available in the external market, using these trends, they should make use of those opportunities. If at all any threats are there, these threats will pose a severe effect, right? They cause severe effect to the company. So what they'll have to do, whatever weaknesses are there, they'll have to reduce that weakness so that the impact of this threat will be minimized. Impact will be minimized. If at all company is not able to 100% remove their weaknesses, then at least they can try to reduce them so that the impact of the threats can be lowered. Apart from this, one more concept is also there, which is related to capabilities. Yes, strategic capabilities. Just a moment. Strategic capabilities, resources, and competences. So, so capability, first of all, we'll see one by one. First one is capability. So what does this capability mean? See, capability is something, which is, it can be in terms of a resource, right? How equipped a company is in terms of their resources to achieve their strategy or to achieve their targets. So a capability, if I come up with, kind of definition, kind of the equation, kind of the capability would be something, the kind of resources that a company have, plus the way they're using those resources, right? The way they're using those resources, that competence, existence of this resources itself is not enough. You need to have people in place, right? You need to have people in place to use those resources in such a way that that competence should exist. Then the strategic capability for the company would exist. So the capabilities doesn't necessarily also always mean strategic capabilities. Sometimes what happens is these capabilities can be minimum, right? For example, strategic capabilities minimum in the sense these are the capabilities which are a minimum for a company to exist in an industry. Okay, for example, if you take a paper, right, newspaper manufacturing company, what is a minimum capability that they should have? Resources they need to have, the editors, the paper, those are the basic resources they're supposed to have. Without that, company can't exist, right? These are so the minimum resources or minimum competencies required to exist in the industry. For existence, these are required. So, resources, if I talk about the example of these resources, I can think about the reporters that company have, right? And then competencies in the sense, minimum competencies. How the reporters, right? How these reporters are utilizing the situation, how well they are extracting that information from a situation, how well they are delivering that information to the media house, right? It's a basic skill, or it's a basic competence required. Now, for example, if you think from another company perspective, for example, some electronics company perspective, right? Uh, Having that electrical engineering, having that electrical engineering qualification, is a minimum competence that is required for your employees, right? That is a minimum competence. Then comes strategic capabilities. By the way, these capabilities are called as, the minimum ones are called as threshold capabilities. Okay. And then the capabilities which are unique, to a specific company are called as strategic capabilities. So what is this strategic capability? Something that gives, or something that brings competitive advantage to the company. For example, uh, uh, what kind of resources are you using, right? Maybe using the reporters in that newspaper manufacturing company. What they're doing is they're interviewing, right? They interview certain sports icon, right? This is something exclusive which you can only find in that specific paper, right? This is a strategic capability. Nowhere else you can find this. Okay. And then competencies, core competencies, we call them as, right? Core competencies, for example, Apple, one of the core competencies that they have is the engineers, they come up with excellent designs, right? One of their core competencies, that is. These designs are not usually found elsewhere in the market, be it their phones, or be it their iPads, or be it their laptops. Oh, so capabilities, capabilities can be a threshold capability, and then strategic capability. Threshold is the minimum one which is required to exist in that industry, or the existing of that company. Strategic capability is such capability which is unique, that gives competitive advantage to the company. Okay. Then comes the, so in that JSW model, we have seen that strategic analysis is one part, and then strategic option or strategic choices, right? So analysis part is done. Now we'll look into the choices. Once it is done, implementation, strategic implementation. So what kind of choices or what kind of options do organizations have to deliver a strategy or to achieve a strategy? Here we'll be calling these strategies as generic strategies, or it can be also called as, these generic strategies are also called as competitive strategies. Apart from this, we also have other types of strategies which are called as growth strategies. Okay. So if as a company you want to know how to beat the competition, okay, how to beat the competition, you want to understand, you will be using these generic strategies. You want to understand the growth aspects, how to achieve that growth for a company, then we'll be looking into these growth strategies. We'll understand one by one. First, uh, generic strategies. These generic strategies are again of three types: cost leader, and then differentiator and focus. So we'll see one by one. Let me rephrase it in a different way. These competitive strategies are of three types: cost leader, differentiator, and then focus. Three types. Cost leader. So the main aim of this cost leader is to reduce the cost of production as low as possible. You reduce the cost of production, you can sell at low prices. Okay, can sell at low prices. So what is the advantage here is, what is the competitive advantage here is, customers who are, customers who are price sensitive. You're targeting these customers by selling at lower prices. That is the advantage that you're gaining by being a cost leader. So how do this cost leadership strategy be achieved? How to achieve this? How to achieve this? Well, obviously, try to reduce the costs as low as possible, right? Or maybe you can try economies of scale. Economies of scale means you produce more, more and more number of units you are producing. Ultimately, per unit cost will come down. Per unit cost will come down. Again, the reason is the more products you produce, the total cost that lies on the shoulders of the products will uh, let's suppose if you're only producing 10 units, the fixed costs that are required to produce these 10 units would be same for the 100 units. If you are planning, the same fixed cost is required to produce that 10 units as well as for the 100 units. So the more and more units you produce, what happens? The fixed cost or maybe the total cost will reduce per unit. Per unit cost will reduce. That is what that economies of scale. How can companies achieve that cost leader strategy? By producing more number of units. In the beginning, it won't happen. After their existence into that industry, after certain number of years, after they produce these products for more number of years, then such sort of target can be achieved, which means that reduction in cost of production or reduction in per unit cost. And also maybe what they can do is they can try to reduce their fixed costs, right? Maybe shifting to a building or shifting to a factory premises where the cost is low. I mean, maybe the rent is low or something like that. And then how to achieve that? And then what kind of benefits will be there for a cost leader strategy? If you're following a cost leader strategy, what kind of benefits will be there? Well, obviously you can produce high volumes, right? You can produce high volumes. You produce high volumes, you sell more. That is one of the benefit. Plus one more thing is, since your cost of production is low, since you have this economies of scale, your per unit cost is low, it creates a barrier to entry for new entrants to enter into. Because they can't match this per unit cost, lowest per unit cost. For the beginners, it's not going to happen. Right? That is one of the benefit. Plus, you can also win the price wars. You can also win the price wars. If at all, let's suppose competitor 1, competitor 2, competitor 3 competitors are there. So cost of production plus profit will give them the selling price. Let's suppose it is taking them some 100 COP and some 10 profit, and they're selling at 110 some product. Let's suppose your company 3, your cost of production is much more lower, 80, but still you are selling at, let's suppose, 110, which means your profit is high here. Let's suppose there is some other competitor, for them also, let's suppose it is taking 105 plus 5 rupees profit they're having and 110 they're selling. So price is almost similar, almost the price is anyway same. So maybe this first company, what they try to do, they try to reduce the selling price, right? Maybe 105 they're trying to sell. How they're trying to sell? They're sacrificing on the profit. 5 profit they're sacrificing. So they reduce the price. What you can do, you can also reduce the price. You can reduce the price by 10. You can sell at 100 only. You can sacrifice 10 profit, right? You can sacrifice 10 profit. Still, you are still profitable. 20 profit you're earning when compared to this company earning profit of 5, right? So this is the situation of price wars. In case of price wars, companies who have a lowest cost of production will be able to win those price wars. That is one of the benefit. Disadvantages of, I mean, troubles or disadvantages of a company which is following this cost leader strategy, or maybe you can call it as threats as well. See, the thing is there is a no fallback situation. I mean, no fallback position. If you lose that cost leader advantage, if you lose that position, nobody is going to buy your product. If some other company comes into picture and sell at lower prices, people will simply go to there. At the same time, if at all competitors, right, large competitors, maybe cost leaders from other countries enter into your country, you may lose the advantage. That can also happen. Or maybe sometimes it's better. Sometimes what happens is due to exchange differences, customers might be feeling that importing products from other countries is much more cheaper than purchasing in-house. That can also happen sometimes. So you lose the competitive advantage. You won't have that. There's no use in following that cost leader strategy in such situations. Differentiator, main aim of the differentiator is to provide unique products, which can't be found elsewhere. Okay, Apple does this. They come up with these unique features, right? How do they achieve that? How to achieve? Well, you need to spend on R&D, right? You spend more on R&D, you'll get better ideas, right? And then you need to make sure you're spending enough on branding, right? That people should be able to recognize your brand. Through R&D, lot of innovation should happen. Unless and until innovation is happening, you can't come with unique products every year, because customers expect unique products. Customers expect unique features from the products of the company who are following this differentiation strategy. Well, what are the benefits? Benefits is you can charge premium, right? Since you're offering that utmost quality, since you're offering that unique features, you can charge premium. Better influence will be there to the company. If premium you're charging, better margins will be there. Okay. Um, Customers are not going to bargain with you. You know, the power of customers will be low here. Customers can't bargain with the companies who are into differentiation strategy, because they can't find these kind of products elsewhere. They can't bargain with you saying that if you don't give me discounts, I'll go somewhere else. No, that's not going to happen. Disadvantages, or maybe the threats. Threats is, during a situation where economy is into recession, right? Uh, People are not going to buy your products because your products will be costly since you're charging premium. During recession time, people are not going to buy these luxury items. Yeah, during recession, there won't be any demand. Um, Maybe you can't produce at huge quantity, at huge numbers like the cost leader, right? Volume would be low because these are too costly. People might not be buying. And then what else? You need to constantly innovate, because one of the main differentiating factor is that innovation. So you need to constantly innovate to be able to differentiate from rest of the competition. In this situation, you need to constantly spend on R&D, right? You will have severe cost, significant costs will be there. So companies uh, who have huge marketing budgets, companies who have excellent R&D teams, for them it will be suitable to go with the differentiation strategy. And then finally, focus. Here what happens is, this is the market segment where cost leader do not exist and the differentiator do not exist. This is a niche market. This is a niche market. For example, Rolex, right? A Rolex does differentiation focus. Okay. In focus, again, two types of things are there: cost focus, differentiation focus. What Rolex does is it focuses on specific customers who are into buying these watches, which are very exclusive, right? Very exclusive. We can't find these kind of watches elsewhere. There won't be any match between two watches. Uh, Customers who are into craftsmanship, right? That uniqueness, that brand, people who are into such aspects, this differentiation focus would be suitable. And then cost focus is also there. Cost focus means, again, you're also focusing on specific customers, but in terms of reducing the cost of production here, which means you're selling at prices, uh, focusing on specific customers, but through a cost conscious nature. For example, Zara does this cost focus. You know how they reduce their costs. They don't establish their outlets. They don't establish their stores just like anywhere. They establish in busy areas, right, where a lot of crowd exists, right? In malls, in big city malls, or maybe in city junctions. And then they'll also use this aesthetic looking, infrastructure to please the customers. Okay. So by saving their costs in marketing, right, their primary focus is on fast fashion. Okay. So these are the three uh, generic strategies or competitive strategies, we can call them as. Apart from these generic strategies and competitive strategies, we have something called as uh, competitive advantage. I mean, what we are trying to do with all these generic strategies, company would be trying to gain competitive advantage, right? So here they are trying to sell more. They're trying to target on those price sensitive customers. You reduce your cost of production, you can have bigger margins over there. And you're selling more. So per unit cost will be reduced. That can also be a competitive advantage. In differentiation, you are offering unique products. You're attracting those customers who are expecting those unique products. So each strategy is giving you a competitive advantage. Now the question is, this competitive advantage the company had got, will it stay with the company forever? Will it stay with the company forever? No, it's not going to happen. Tomorrow, somebody else comes and produce the product at much more lower price. The cost leader will lose that advantage. Somebody else will take away the title. So we need to do something to protect this competitive advantage. We have to make sure this competitive advantage is sustainable. Right? How would it be done? Well, make sure you produce those features or make sure you produce those products or maybe the features which are valued by the customers. So unless and until these features are valued by the customers, they're not going to buy your products, right? So make sure these are valued by the customers. At the same time, these features should be rare, which means shouldn't be easily found elsewhere. At the same time, these features or products that you're coming up with, they should be robust as well. Robust means hard to imitate or hard to copy. See, you will come up with unique features, that is fine. But with the time, competitors may copy you. You know what happens with Apple? What happens with Apple? Apple comes up with certain design, right? After 6 months or after 7 months, Xiaomi may, come up with a product which is quite similar, but they may, copy those designs, not as it is, but with a little bit of modification. Then what happens? Apple will use that competitive advantage, right? Customers will feel like, if the same design, if I get from some other product at much more cheaper price, why I should buy Apple products? Right? So the feature should be robust in nature as well, which means it should be hard to copy. How can we make the competitive advantage, or how can we make these features hard to copy? Maybe get them patented. Okay. So you will be protected by law over there. All right. Then we'll look into generic strategies. Sorry, generic strategies is done. Now we'll look into growth strategies. We have a matrix, Ansov growth matrix. Okay. Ansov growth matrix. So here what happens is, Ansov had come up with a matrix, okay, where he divided the, products. Where he came up, he came up with a matrix based on two different variables: the markets and the products that the company is producing. These markets and products can be old as well as new, which means old means they already exist. Company already exists in that market. New means they are planning to enter into that market, or maybe product new in the sense they are planning to produce a new product and sell it new product. Simple. This matrix again is simple. We'll take the x-axis. We'll take the x-axis and y-axis. Okay, no need to label them. We'll take a product here, and here product and market, right? So it can be a new market, it can be new product, or it can be old product and old market. So 4 boxes will be there. We'll have to identify what sort of strategy we have to use for different situations, right? These are growth strategies. For example, a company is trying to sell their old products in the old market, right? Company is trying to sell their same old products in the same old market. This happens when there is a growth possibility. When there is still opportunity for growth exists in that market, then you can still keep on selling them. So what happens here is company will do a little bit of modifications, something like, what Colgate does. Colgate tries to come up with offers. They say buy one, get one free, like this kind of. They're trying to increase the average spend. They're trying to increase the average spend of customers. Okay. So this kind of strategy, growth strategy is called as market penetration, which means companies would try to sell their old products in the old market. And then when one of the biggest risk of this is, if you keep on selling the old products in the old market, customers will get fed up. They'll be like, how long will we use the same products? They expect some new products in the market, right? So that is where this comes into picture, right? New products, selling new products. Now Colgate comes up with the different flavors every year, right? Colgate Max Fresh, something like that. other products they'll be coming up with, the new product, not only the in terms of toothpaste, but also in terms of brush, right? And in terms of that liquid, oral care, different products in the oral care segment, they will come up with. Okay, so this kind of growth strategy will be called as product development. Okay, one of the risks that exists here is that you may run out of ideas. You may run out of ideas. This is one of the biggest risks. Why? Because every year you have to innovate constantly. Plus, one of the thing is sales cannibalization can happen here. Sales cannibalization means your new products eating away the demand of your old products. Okay, that is one of the risk here. Then comes this part where you're trying to sell your old products in the new market. So the reason why companies does this is that to come up with the new products, they have to invest a lot in R&D. They have to invest a lot in R&D. Maybe some 10 ideas they have come up with. Maybe out of these 10 ideas, only 2 will work out. 8 ideas will be lost. Lot of money you have invested. It's all going to be gone. You can't recover that money. So why to worry about new products? Rather than sell the old products by entering into some new markets. Maybe in one state of India, you're a big hit, maybe enter some other state. Or maybe in India, you're a big hit, enter into some other country with the same old products. Right? This is called as market development. Okay. So in market development, companies should usually focus on advertising, right? They have to, why? Because, they are not familiar in the new markets, right? They're not familiar in the new market. So usually what they'll do is they'll tie up with some other company. Uh, so through that, the sales would be done. So here what's happening is one of the biggest advantage here is you're not compromising on your structured resources. Okay, not compromising or not wasting your structured resources in the sense Colgate already has established plants, giant mixtures to mix the ingredients to make the paste, and then machines which would carry that paste and fill it into tubes, and then a cap a fitting machine. They already have the resources in place. Employees were already trained on that. So resources are structured, everything is there. Why they can bother about new product? Why they can bring in some new machines? Make better use of the existing resources that you already have. So, and then last one, where the company would try to sell, new products. The company will try to sell the new products in the new market. This is a situation of diversification. Okay, so this diversification is of a few types. This diversification, sometimes companies what they'll do is they will diversify into businesses, right? They will diversify into businesses which they already have familiarity in, or they will diversify into businesses which they previously do not have experience in. For example, uh, Reliance Industries, right? Previously, they were into oil and gas. After that, they entered into telecom through Geo. Is there any link between these two? No. They entered into Geo. I mean, they entered into telecom business without any previous experience in that. Right? This kind of diversification we call as conglomerate diversification. Entering into which means entering into markets or maybe entering into businesses where company doesn't have previous experience. Oh. Hmm. Number two, companies might enter into businesses where they previously had experience in. For example, Apple Incorporation. Apple previously was manufacturing computers, right? Macintosh. And then later they started to produce the phones, iPhones, right? These iPods, two different things. But the thing is, the experience or the knowledge, the technology they used for the computers production, they can make use of it in the phone manufacturing as well, or maybe in laptop manufacturing as well, right? This kind of diversification will be called as horizontal diversification. Then comes a situation where something called as vertical integration. Vertical integration means, for example, there is a car manufacturer. This car manufacturer would get the steel from the supplier. Okay. And then once the cars are manufactured, the cars would be sent to the dealers. And from the dealers, customers would purchase the cars. This usually happens. So this is the entire supply chain. So what companies might do is that maybe this car manufacturer would go back and acquire the supplier. Okay. This is called as backward integration. And sometimes the car manufacturer can move forward and acquire the dealer. This is called as forward integration. Okay. And the reason why they do this backward integration is to have better control over the supply. Maybe so they thought that maybe they can have the raw material in place, on time. Maybe there are delays if the raw material they're sourcing from some other external supplier. Maybe they thought that maybe they can have economies of scale if they take control over the supplier. That can happen. Why companies go for forward integration is to better understand or to better serve the customers. Right? Maybe the dealers are not properly communicating back to the manufacturers the complaints or issues that the customers are saying. So you move forward in the supply chain, you acquire the dealers, you directly sell to the customers, you will better understand the customers. Okay, these are different types of diversifications. So for each diversification, there would be advantage and disadvantage. One of the main advantage, disadvantages and disadvantages will be there. If at all the professional skill evaluation is being tested, this can be asked, what are the advantages and disadvantages of each diversification method. For example, in case of what is this conglomerate diversification we said. Okay. In case of conglomerate diversification, what could be the advantages? Reliance entering from oil and gas to Geo telecom. So it basically increased the flexibility, right? Your dependency on few revenue streams had reduced. So your flexibility has increased. If the flexibility is increased, more revenue streams will be there. If more revenue streams are there, profitability will also increase, right? Because of this, the size of the company will increase, right? Because the size of the company is increasing, you will have better access to capital markets, right? Now the loan providers won't see your company as too risky. And the reason is even if one business is not doing well, some other business might do well, right? So those can be the advantages. Basically, risk diversification is happening here. These are the benefits. So just like that, negatives can also be there. You thought that you might get certain benefit, but those benefits might not arise. So synergies might not arise. Or maybe, see, in the beginning, a lot of investment needs to be made, right? What Geo did, they did not sell the SINs right from the beginning. They gave the SINs for free for some time. So in the beginning, these investors or the shareholders can't get any benefit right away, right? So convincing those shareholders can become a bit difficult. So if you have different businesses, the focus can be difficult if you have too many businesses. These are the advantages and disadvantages of conglomerate diversification. And then what happens in case of vertical integration? Benefits is, if you acquire your supplier, you'll have better control over the supply, right? If you acquire the dealers, you'll have better understanding over the customer's requirement. Maybe you'll better able to serve them. But again, disadvantages will also be there, right? You will have to see a huge outflow, right? Suppliers are not going to sell their business for free. We have to incur cost. Maybe after that, uh, economies of scale might not arise. You thought that your cost of production can be reduced, but that COP is not being reduced, right? So that can be a disadvantage. Uh, yeah, so these kind of advantages and disadvantages will also be there. If at all evaluation is being tested, we have to talk about positives, negatives, and express our opinion. Okay. So after generic strategies are done, after growth strategies are done, those are the choices, right? As well as different methods are also there, how company achieves that in terms of organic growth, or maybe uh, the acquisition or something like that. We'll see that in a moment. But before that, there is something called as strategy evaluation. Okay. So if a company is thinking, uh, if a company is thinking that they want to follow a certain strategy, we need to evaluate whether it is suitable to the company or not. We need to evaluate whether the shareholders will accept that or not. We need to evaluate whether we have enough resources to implement that strategy or not. Right? That evaluation will happen. So that thing we'll see. So if you have two different choices in picking up a strategy, this evaluation should be done. Strategic evaluation. Usually the strategic evaluation happens at three phases. Number one, suitability. Number two, acceptability. And then finally, feasibility. Okay. So suitability means you just have to think whatever this new proposal, or a proposal or whatever strategy that the management is thinking, this new thing, is it in line with your current strategy? Is it in line with your current strategy? For example, if the company is following cost leader strategy or cost focus strategy, they're thinking about establishing a new factory, or maybe they're thinking about producing more, or they're thinking about something. Will that something, or will that new strategy reduce the cost of production lower in the future or not? Right? So that is what this is. Whether the proposal is in line with the current strategy or not. If at all you are thinking about certain strategy and you are a differentiator, will it give that uniqueness advantage to the company or not? Then you can say that a new proposal or new strategy is suitable. Or maybe whether this new strategy is in line with the values of the company. Okay. You are one of those companies who value the environment, right? Who have that sustainability aspect going on. Let's suppose if this investment in something is going to destroy certain natural resource, that is against your value, right? This is not suitable. At the same time, ultimately, you have to think whether this new strategy or new proposal, will it give competitive advantage to the company or not? Unless and until it is giving competitive advantage, that strategy is not suitable to the company. What does this competitive advantage mean? It means you are doing something unique, which should bring you the revenue, which should bring you the demand. So a strategy will only be suitable if it brings that competitive advantage to the company. Along with that, it should be in line with the current strategy. It should meet the values of the company as well. All right, if it is suitable, then look into the acceptability part as well. Acceptability means you have to see what sort of risks involved. Okay, what sort of risks involved if you follow that strategy, or what sort of returns are involved, right? What happens to your return on capital employed? Will it increase or decrease? Right? Or maybe whatever metric that the shareholders are using to measure these returns, what happens to those metrics? Because based on that, shareholders will decide whether to accept this strategy or not. Okay. See, if this strategy is causing some reputational damage to the company, shareholders will not accept this. Okay. What about the customers? If this strategy somehow improve the quality of the products, customers will accept, or else they will not accept. What about the employees? Right? This strategy, you are implementing some automation. Because of this, employees are going to lose the job. So they might not accept this, right? So, or yeah, they might not accept this. And then government. So if at all you're implementing certain strategy which is against the government rules, right? They will definitely say no, or maybe it is not complying with the regulations. The regulatory authority might not accept this. And then comes the feasibility. For this strategy to implement, does the company have enough money? If it doesn't have enough money, where would it get this money from? Will it go for equity issue, right? Or maybe will it go to a bank? What if you go to a bank? What happens to the gearing? Gearing may increase. If gearing is increasing, financial risk will increase, right? So all these things we have to consider in feasibility. Not only in terms of money, what about the human resources? Do you have enough people, enough skilled people to carry out this strategy, right? Like that you have to think. Unless and until all three aspects are there, we should not go further with the strategy. So this is strategic evaluation. By the way, in terms of returns, not only the financial returns we are going to see, but also non-financial returns also, right? In terms of customer satisfaction, employee working conditions, or employee satisfaction levels, like that. So after this, we have a concept called as methods of strategic development. Next chapter. Methods of strategic development. In this chapter, what happens is, so company will be thinking about a method, how they're going to achieve a strategy. Let's suppose they thought they'll be implementing the cost leader strategy, or they had chosen cost leader strategy. How would you roll this out? Right? Will you do it on your own? Will you do it on your own? Then it is called as organic growth. Okay. Or maybe you'll take some help from somebody else, some other company. That would be a joint venture, maybe some 50-50 share, like that you'll be doing. you will be sharing the responsibilities. That would be a joint venture. Or maybe you're thinking about acquiring control in some other company, something like acquisition or maybe merger. Or maybe you want to grant a license to some other company so that they can use your brand and run the operation somewhere else, right? License, something like franchising. So different methods of strategic development are there, different methods are there. Uh, yeah. So different methods are there, which is suitable to a company. This is how it is going to be tested. Examiner will say that company is thinking about either organic growth or acquisition. You will have to suggest which one is more suitable or which one is more feasible or which one is more acceptable by using this strategic evaluation technique. We also call this as SAF framework. Very important. SAF framework. So for example, let's talk about organic growth. Organic growth means company is growing on its own. They are not taking any, help from external sources, which means help in the sense they're not merging with somebody else. So in case of organic growth, let's see what are the advantages and what are the disadvantages. And the reason why we are looking into this is examiner will specifically test this in this way. And they may ask you to explain the way a company can grow to organic growth. That is fine, but uh, possibility is there. Two different methods will be there. Management might be confused. They don't know which method to follow. And the examiner will ask you to suggest a method, either organic growth or acquisition, or maybe acquisition or joint venture, whatever it may be. Based on the positives and negatives of those different methods, which are have high positives and whichever is in line with the company's capabilities, you will suggest that model, that method. All right, we'll see the advantages. One of the benefits of organic growth is there is no rush, right? What you can do is first you establish a small factory, right? Or maybe before establishing small factory, do the market research. Understand what kind of demand is there, right? And then establish a factory and then sell or produce at low volumes. Get to understand the demand conditions. Once you have good demand, then you spend more on advertising. Spend more on advertising. Once you get better familiar, once customers get better familiarity, then expand, right? Then expand into bigger factories. Right? So the cost that you're going to incur, right? The cost that you're going to incur, you're not incurring it on day one itself, right? The cost can be spread across number of years. That is one of the biggest advantage you have in the organic growth. That's not in case of acquisition. If a company acquires some other company, purchase consideration should be paid. It's a huge outflow on the first day itself. But that is not the case in case of organic growth. Okay. Plus, since no other company is coming into picture, like acquisition, another advantage is that no culture clash will be there, right? No culture clash will be there. You can follow the same sort of culture you previously were into. Same management style, maybe democratic style you're following, you can maybe follow the same thing, right? One of the main biggest benefit is for organic growth companies, governments may give grants as well, right? Why? To encourage them. To encourage them, government might give grants. So finding funds is also a bit easy. But at the same time, disadvantages will also be there, right? For organic growth, disadvantages will also be there. Uh, the thing is, the disadvantages here is, the growth can be very slow. That is the main disadvantage. Growth can be very slow, or maybe you do not have expertise. right? You won't have enough expertise. If you do not have enough expertise, you can't, you have to spend a lot on acquiring that knowledge, maybe the training the employees, a lot of time is being involved. But in case of acquisition or maybe joint venture, immediately you can get into partnership with some other company who already have that ability. Um, so yeah. So those are the advantages and disadvantages of organic growth. Apart from organic growth, now let's look into joint venture. What are the benefits of joint venture? What are the disadvantages of a joint venture? Here also the costs can be shared. That is one of the biggest advantage. You know, the running cost can be shared, operating costs or everything. See, the profits will be shared, the costs will be shared in the joint venture, right? That is one of the biggest advantage. Plus, the company which doesn't have that knowledge, it can learn from the other company which is involved in this joint venture. So learning will happen. Okay. Uh, if two different companies came together to form the joint venture, each of these companies can learn from one another. Plus, they can focus on their relative strengths, right? Focus on a relative or their own strengths. Let's suppose company A or company one is excellent in marketing or advertising. Other company is excellent in manufacturing. So you manufacture, this company will take care of the advertising. So each one of them can focus on their own capabilities. So just like that, disadvantages can also be there. Sometimes disputes might arise. Why? Because before you take a decision as part of a joint venture, both should agree. That agreeing, it can be difficult. Getting that approval from both parties to do something, it can be difficult. So disputes might arise, difference of opinions might arise. Uh, Sometimes what happens is, uh, uh, sometimes what happens is, since this learning is happening here, no, uh, what can happen here is the company which previously doesn't have that experience, maybe by learning from the other company, they can simply get out of the joint venture and establish their own company, right? So you learn from the other company and you got out of that joint venture and you started your own business. So this kind of disadvantages will be there in case of a joint venture. Then there is something called as franchising. Franchising is a business strategy, you know, franchise business. Here what happens is the company would give the license to another company to operate using the brand of the franchisor. You know, the franchisor and franchisee, we call them as. So franchisor will give the power to the franchisee to use the product, to use the processes, to use the brand, to expand the business. You know, it is one of the quickest way to expand. See, the KFC owner is not going to come to each and every part of Bangalore to see how the premises are and all. It's not going to happen. Without all these things, just by giving a simple license to operate, KFC had grown throughout the globe. Fastest way to expand, fastest way to grow. So if at all the examiner is asking, uh, if the while you're reading the case study, you feel like you noticed something like this, management is planning for an expansion method which is quick. Okay, so when they are thinking about franchising or maybe organic growth, which one would you suggest? Franchising you'll suggest, because we have seen one of the troubles that companies face in case of organic growth is that the growth will be slow, right? The expansion will be slow in case of organic growth. So benefits is it is quickest way to grow. So you get termination also is easy because you simply cancel the license. Termination is done. Okay, easy to terminate as well. And then you can expand quickly. Brand recognition that can be happen. Worldwide. Today KFC is known throughout the globe. Um, one more thing is the franchisor. Franchisor doesn't know the market conditions. So franchisee will take care of researching whether there is a demand for that product in that area or not. So the lack of knowledge of that franchisor is not going to be an issue because franchisee is going to take care of the doing the research, finding out demand for that product. So just like that, disadvantages will also be there. Franchisor and franchisee, they need to share profits, right? They need to share profits. Franchisor is the one who came up with this idea, but because the license is been given, and they need to share the profits. Franchisor might not like this, sharing the profits. Uh, Sometimes what happens is the franchisee might be running the business in such a way that franchisor did not intend to. Right? There's no monitoring over there. So they may deviate. The franchisee may deviate from the main objective of the franchisor. That can be a disadvantage. So because of that, that consistency will be lost. Same consistency can't be found throughout the globe. But KFC made sure that consistency is there. Sometimes what happens is it will be very difficult to find the franchisees because if the product that you're selling or if the service that you're giving, if it is easily decodable or maybe you do not protect the competitive advantage, the right mix of spices that they use in the, KFC cooking, if they do not protect that mix, or if they do not protect the ingredients, the secret, what happens? Anybody and everybody can produce the product on their own, right? So what's the point of taking this franchise business now? You can establish your own company, right? So sometimes finding the franchises will be difficult as well. And then comes ultimately acquisition. Again, just like other more growth methods, here also we'll be looking into positives and negatives. Again, acquisition is also a quick way to grow. But the thing is, huge outflow will be there, which means you have to pay that purchase consideration, right? You'll have to pay that. That is one of the biggest disadvantage. The thing, even if you pay it, maybe in future, I mean, the reason why you entered into acquisition is that maybe this company one thought that after we acquire this company, if we work together, synergies can be gained, benefits can be gained, but the synergies might not realize, right? Synergies might not be realized. That can be one issue. Uh, if synergies realize, you have more market share. Your market share will increase. If the synergies are realized. What else can be there? What other benefits can be there if at all company acquires some other company? Uh, if this company doesn't, if one company only have the threshold capabilities, right? You acquire some other company, you will have access to the strategic capabilities as well, right? We have seen somewhere before threshold capabilities and strategic capabilities. Threshold capabilities are the ones which are minimum capabilities that are required. Strategic capabilities means those capabilities which gives you competitive advantage. Uh, So if after this acquisition, company size is going to get bigger, maybe reputation might also go up. So finding capital might be easy, right? The bankers might perceive you as less risky. One of the main disadvantage of this acquisition is that culture clash. Previously, maybe this company one was following the management style of democratic style, and then company two was following this autocratic style. When company two acquired this company one, they may. Okay. So when there are two companies, company one and company two. When this company two acquired this company one, previously they are following democratic management style, and this company is following autocratic style. So they may dictate company one to follow this same autocratic style as well. And these people, they won't like that, right? That is where that culture clash might happen. One of the biggest disadvantage in acquisition, right? So maybe you'll have to suggest things, how to with that culture clash or something like that. You for this you need proper management skills. Just because an acquisition happened, it doesn't necessarily mean that synergies will flow into the company. You need proper management skills. Only then the synergies will flow into the companies. Again, these synergies can be synergies means two companies are there, company one, company two. Let's suppose this company is best known for manufacturing and this company is best known for marketing, right? Individually, they are not getting certain benefit, but these two come together, then with the best quality products they are producing, they can do excellent marketing. This gives a competitive advantage together. Okay, that is what a synergy. Synergy is a benefit which can be realized if two companies come together. This synergy can be, sales synergies, right? If two companies are coming together, you can sell more, or this can be cost synergy, which means the costs can be reduced. Maybe better, I don't know, better or modern equipment they're using, which reduces unnecessary waste, right? Which reduces unnecessary waste. In that cost benefits also company can achieve. Or maybe not only that, maybe these machines are much more capable. They have higher efficiency. Maybe economies of scales can also be achieved. Again, what is this economies of scale? You produce more so that per head cost or per unit cost will come down. All right. So these are the synergies a company would have. So these are the different methods of strategic development. How this can be tested is either examiner would ask you to explain what a certain method is, organic growth, or maybe franchising, or maybe acquisition. Or usually most of probably they will give you two options, either organic or franchising, or maybe either organic or maybe acquisition. Out of these two, you'll have to suggest or you'll have to evaluate these two. You'll have to talk about what are the positives and negatives of choosing each one of those. Based on that, ultimately, whichever is suitable to the company, you will be suggesting. Then comes portfolio analysis tools. portfolio analysis tools. Uh, business portfolios will be there. Sometimes the examiner might be asking you questions on how the companies should manage their portfolios, maybe in terms of their business units or maybe in terms of different products that they have within maybe one single business. So certain tools are there. I mean, three different tools are there. We'll see one by one. First one is BCG Matrix. Okay, so this BCG Matrix is when you're going to use it, when to use this BCG matrix. So to decide, should you add, you in the sense the company, should you add or remove products or maybe, your business units from the product portfolio, from the business portfolio. If that is the situation, if that is the examiner's requirement, you'll be using this BCG matrix. Okay. Using this BCG matrix, we're also going to learn about certain things. What you're going to understand here is something like this. Is there any products or is there any business unit which is not performing well and its demand or maybe its revenue or its performance is declining? DCLINING. Okay. Whether the performance is right, any decline is happening, so that you can be able to identify through this BCG matrix. Also, you want to find out any growth potential that is there for certain product in your entire product portfolio, or growth potential for different businesses that you're in. That can also be done through this, right? Identifying growth potential. And then finally, you will be learning how balancing should be done among different products so that it will add to the strategic capability of the business. Balancing that adds to the strategic capability of the business overall. We'll see one by one. So this BCG matrix, here we have two different variables. Number one, the market share, the relative market share. Relative in the sense, it's a comparison. You are comparing your company's market share with maybe a competitor. Okay, that's what this relative market share means. And then what sort of growth possibility is there in that market, which means that rate of growth. Rate of growth in the market. The growth possibility can be high, or maybe for certain products which are at decline stage of their product life cycle, or maybe at the final stage of the product life cycle, maybe the growth in that market can be low, right? And then market share for your products, it can be low, it can be high. So we are going to come up with 4 different boxes. So there are certain products, okay, in a company where they have high market share as well as high rate of growth potential in the market. Those sort of products we will be considering, as star products. Okay, so these are the products which are performing absolutely well. High growth potential is there at the same time. You have the highest market share also when compared with the competitor. So what to be done in these kind of situations is that, for example, if we talk about a company, for example, Apple has different products. It has iPhones, it has MacBooks, laptops. Previously it also used to have the iPods, and then, something like that. It also is into, the Vision Pro. Different products it is producing. If I think about it, I feel like, iPhone would be a star product for Apple. So what's happening here is, I mean, what they're supposed to do here is to maintain this star position, they need to keep on investing. They need to keep on investing more so that they will come up with that differentiated product, that uniqueness. So R&D, they have to keep on investing in. Why? So that they can protect this star position. At the same time, what they can also do is to protect that star position rather than, I mean, apart from investing, maybe they can give certain offers. Sometimes you'll see exchange your Android phone with Apple, you'll get some discount. Or maybe during festivals time, they'll come up with credit card discounts. So reduce the prices, maybe through discounts or maybe cards or something like that, or modify the products every year, modify a bit every year so that you will maintain that star position. Okay. There can be certain products which are having relatively low market share. At the same time, growth potential is also not there in that market. So those kind of products will be called as dogs, right? These are not performing really well. At the same time, growth is also not there. So for example, in Apple case, we can consider, the iPod business no longer is there. Those were iPods were the individual music players, sole music players. But after the iPhone came into picture, iPods slowly faded away. Okay. So what to be done with these dog products? These are the products which are giving maybe losses to the company. If you keep on maintaining those products in the portfolio, they may give you losses. What you can do, maybe you can remove these products from the portfolio, right? Divestment, remove them. Uh, Sometimes what happens is you cannot remove them altogether because maybe there is certain level of dependency of these products with some other products in the portfolio. For example, Apple TV. Okay, Apple TV. It it depends on other products. For example, when you buy iPhone, they say that you'll get certain discount for Apple TV. So the product which doesn't have previously high market growth and high market share, why? Because anyway, Chromecast and then this Fire Stick, from Amazon, these are already in that market. So good competition is there for Apple. So in that situation, what happens is this Apple TV, uh, suddenly it brings demand for other products because they say that if you buy iPhone, you get certain discount for that Apple TV, right? So that a boosting of sales can happen to star products because of existence of these dog products, right? So you can't completely remove sometimes, right? Example is that Apple TV. All right. There are certain products which have relatively high growth, right? Growth potential is there, which means if you invest much more, the more customers are going to purchase. But the thing is, the company doesn't have enough market share, right? This is that area. We call this as problem child, or you can call it as question mark. It's a situation where there are products, growth is there, but you do not have enough existence in the market. You do not have enough share in the market. So what you can do here is, what suggestion you can give to the management here is invest more. Invest more so that this product can become a star soon, right? You're getting money from the star production. Maybe invest more in that problem child, or maybe in that question mark. This problem child, uh, from Apple's perspective, we can take this, Vision Pro, Apple Vision Pro. You have seen those advertisements, it's a goggle kind of a thing you'll you'll wear, and you can operate all the devices, virtually. Right, right now there is no clarity for Apple that there is going to be good demand for these products. So growth potential is there, but the things are uncertain right now. Right, so they are wondering whether to invest more or what to do with it. What you can do, invest more. If you believe that demand is going to be there, it may become a star product. And then the only issue with this problem child is you're worried, whether customers may buy or not, uh, whether they adopt to that product or not. And there are certain products which have high market share, which means you have the high market share, but slowly the growth potential is coming down. Right? Maybe the product is at its maturity stage, so much growth is not there. So those kind of products will be called as cash cows. Okay, those kind of products can be called as cash cows. So these are what you're supposed to do with this cash cows is these cash cows, they generate cash flows. Huge cash flows they'll generate. They'll generate cash flows more than required for sustaining in the market. Okay, they generate more. Maybe previously it was a star product, right? Previously it was a star product. Slowly the demand for it has reduced. Slowly the market share, slowly the growth has reduced. It had become a cash cow. What company needs to do with these cash cows? They need to milk the cash cows, which means how much ever is possible, get as much cash flows as possible, sell as many products whichever are left possible to get that money. What you're supposed to do with that money, maybe invest in your problem child. Okay, invest in your problem child so that the problem child may become a star. Right? Yeah, milk in the sense, you need to exploit the cash cows. But again, it comes with certain conditions. You can't exploit each and every cash cow. For example, if at all in that market, other competitors are also there. They're not leaving the market. Then competition still exists, right? Still you need to spend on the marketing. In that situation, we can't exploit the cash cows. Right? So this matrix is called as BCG matrix. This matrix is used to understand this product portfolio. If the management wants your advice on this, what to do with their different products, you can use this model to suggest different ways, or you can use this model to analyze their products or maybe the business units. So this is for private sector, private companies. Okay. BCG is for private companies, or we can say private sector organization or commercial companies, where the objective is to make the profits. So there is one more this portfolio analysis tool, but for public sector organizations. We call it as public sector portfolio matrix. Just like BCG, but this is for public sector organizations. Maybe for organizations which are funded by the government. Public schools, hospitals, something like that. Again, we have x-axis and y-axis matrix is there here also. Let's see. Here the variables differ. Okay, here the variables differ. The variables we are going to take here is the service which is being given by the government. Do public really need it? Do public need that service? And what about the funding levels, right? Funding effectiveness. Is government funding these public needs or these services that the public are expecting well or not? Again, the variables low, high. At the same time, for the requirement of the services which public have and the funding effectiveness should be there, what government is doing? Does government have the ability to deliver that? Ability of government to deliver the service, right? So basically we can call it as whether the value for money, whether people are finding it as value for money or not. Right? Again, it will also be low or high, right? So we'll divide this also into 4 parts. Okay. So those services that are being provided by the government, public really needs them. Public definitely needs them. They value it so much. At the same time, government is also delivering that service effectively, right? These kind of services are called as, or these kind of aspects will be termed as public sector star. Just like in the BCG matrix, how we had the star, right? How we had the star over here. Just like that in private sector matrix, portfolio analysis, BCG matrix, we had a star, that iPhone example. Here also a star service is there, which is public sector star, we'll call it as, right? For example, what kind of example can we take? The railways. Right, railways, public really require that, public do value this. At the same time, government has the ability to deliver this also. Not only ability, it develops the infrastructure as well, right? Throughout the nation, it develops the connectivity. So this is a public sector star. What's happening over there? It is well funded. At the same time, public expectations are also so high to provide that. So what kind of suggestion should be there? Continue with the current funding levels. Okay. Do not reduce those funding levels. Continue with the funding levels. Unless and until you do that, you can't, government can't maintain that public sector star position for the railways. Okay. Quite opposite, where the situation both will be low. Public don't really expect that, public don't really need that when compared with other things, other services, and government is also, not really having the ability to deliver that service. So that kind of thing would be called as, that kind of service would be called as back drawer issue. This kind of services people are also not expecting. So something like, if I take an example in India, you heard of these ITDC hotels, Indian Tourism and Development Corporation. It has certain hotels, right? So as customers, you don't really, as public, don't really expect government to operate these hotels. You actually expect government to either invest that whatever money they are putting in these hotels, to invest that in education or maybe health, or maybe something like that. So plus government also doesn't have that much ability to deliver that service. Why? Because OYO, right, or Taj hotels, these kind of hotels, private businesses, they're providing better service. So this is a backdoor issue. So what you suggest over here is just to simply public don't really expect this. Public don't really expect, as well as government is also not performing at the par when compared with the private companies. So simply discontinue, right? Discontinue in the sense remove the service. Okay, that's a backdoor issue. There can be a situation where public expects government to perform well. Public need is there, but government is not doing well. That kind of situation, that kind of service will be called as political hotbox. Okay? Can you think of any example for this where government doesn't have enough ability to deliver that, but people are expecting, public are expecting, public value that service very much, but government is not delivering it well. Education, government schools. Okay. So what to be done here? What to be done here is you need to, maybe train the teachers. You need to train the teachers, or maybe you need to develop the infrastructure for the schools, right? That should be there. If that happens, this political hotbox may become a public sector star, right? It may shift. But there are certain services where government is not really, the government is investing more, right? It's investing money. Public is not really bothered. They rather expect government to improve on government schools, or maybe to improve on government, hospitals, right? In India, if I take, we call it as golden fleece. See, fleece is nothing but, that wool, or of the sheep, right? Golden fleece in the sense in Greek mythology, uh, it's a sheep with that golden wool, right? Finding that will be, uh, it's a finding that can be very difficult. Uh, it's kind of a myth kind of a thing. So, what to do with these kind of golden fleece services? By the way, any example? In India, suppose before privatization, Air India was there. The airlines operated by government. So government people really did not need this. You already have other private companies who are doing very well in the market. Public require government to, focus on these aspects, schools, hospitals, health, right? Something like that. So what to be done? What sort of advice can we give here is government is as effective, right? Government is effective in doing this. But the thing is, public believe it is overfunded, which means these funds could have been utilized in schools. These funds could have been utilized in hospitals. Okay. So what do you have to do? Move those funds. Move those funds to the areas where public's expectation is high, uh, from the government's perspective to provide that service. Okay. This is public sector portfolio. And then finally, one last matrix. There is something called as corporate parenting. See, when a company acquires some other company, a parent and subsidiary situation, parent should take necessary actions so that the subsidiary would do well. There would be certain situations where parents' involvement is not really required. If you leave the subsidiary alone, it might perform well. So in certain situations, parents should not involve, right? Basically, corporate parenting means parent giving the directions or parent taking care of the subsidiary. But we'll see, there are certain situations if parent unnecessarily involve into the direction giving by giving directions, it will destroy value of the subsidiary. Parents are supposed to add value to the business units, to the subsidiaries through corporate parenting. But there could be certain situations where it will destroy value. So we'll see when that kind adding value or destroying value will happen so that we can suggest the parent company to avoid doing such things. Okay, again we'll take x-axis and y-axis. So the variables now are going to be, do the parent have, right, parents' ability to add value? To add value to whom? To the subsidiary or to the business unit. Okay, parents' ability to add value is low or it could be high. But subsidiary really requires that. Is there any opportunity in the subsidiary? Opportunity to add value at subsidiary or maybe the business unit. Low opportunities, high opportunities. If there is no opportunity or low opportunity, unnecessary involvement by the parent could destroy value. Okay, let's divide this again into 4 parts. Okay, so a situation where both are high, where there is opportunity to add some value, parent also has the ability to add value. That kind of situation is called as heartland, right? That kind of business would be called as heartland business. So what companies should do is that they have to make these heartlands as integral in their future strategies, right? So for a business to be successful, they need to add value to those subsidiaries. They should not just let them go. They should not just leave as it is. See, only then the synergies will arise. Okay. And there are certain situations where parents' involvement is not at all required. At the same time, parent doesn't have the ability to do that, and opportunities are also not there. Right? This box, where both are low, it's a alien territory for the parent. Right? It's an alien territory for the parent, which means what they're supposed to do here, they should completely avoid involvement, or there is a complete mismatch between the parent's ability and the expectations of the sub. There's complete mismatch, or it's not really adding to the critical success factor of the parent. Okay, it's a complete mismatch of CSFs, critical success factors. If it doesn't match with the critical success factors, parent doesn't have to get involved. So what do you have to do? Remove those businesses. It's better to uh, they shouldn't be part of the business. Okay. And there can be certain businesses where the opportunity to add value is high. There are opportunities, but parent doesn't have the ability, right? So parent doesn't have the ability, or the parent has, it's a poor strategic fit with the parent company. The sub is if you add that subsidiary to the parent, it's the strategic fit is not there. That kind of businesses would be called as value trap. Okay, it's a value trap. If you involve over there, the value would be trapped. Right? There's no opportunity. I mean, there's no ability for the parent to develop value to the subsidiary over here. So, so here opportunity is there, but the parent, when compared with the parent company, it's a poor fit, right? But when compared with the parent, the subsidiary or maybe the strategy of the sub is a poor fit to the strategy of the parent. And then finally, there are certain businesses where opportunity is low, but the parent's ability is high. Parent want to add certain value, but it's better not to add value. It's better to leave them alone so that they will perform better on their own, right? We call them as last. So what to be done here? You simply leave such businesses alone. Leave them alone, right? Let them operate on their own. Don't get involved. If parent gets involved, uh, where opportunity to add value is not there, they might destroy value unnecessarily. Okay. So this is called as, by the way, forgot to mention the name. This is called as Ashridge portfolio display. Ashridge portfolio display. So sometimes what happens is there's a bit of area that matches with the heartland, with the this ballast or maybe this value trap businesses, this area, right? So in that situations, maybe parent can get involved. So for this part in ballast and for this part in value trap, maybe they can add some value. They can make part of heartland. Possibility is there since they're at that border for the heartland, right? So overall, these all strategies we have discussed so far, all these strategies, right from the GSW model, right from the basic definition of strategy, till this Ashridge portfolio display, all these are different strategies that are involved in the SBL syllabus. Next, we'll go through governance concepts.